Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and Fiat Freaks, to another video. Previously, we were at the big auto show, British, Italian, and German auto show, and I hope you guys really liked that video. There's a lot of cars. It was really fun. I also tried my first edit, so that went okay. It could have been better, but I didn't really think to take multiple takes of something. I just took one and was like, yeah. So I'll definitely learn my lesson a little bit on what I should do if I want to do something like that, a cinematic again. So today we're actually going to be working on Copperhead, and I have something really special that I've been wanting to do because I think a lot of people are going to be hating on it at first and then realize what I'm actually doing and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I'll show you guys what it is and then we'll get started on installing it on the car. So as I'm sure most Fiat people are aware, the factory intake on the turbo setup is really not good at all. It just comes in through the snorkel, which doesn't really come from anywhere. You get down here and over here, but it doesn't really come from anywhere, and then it goes into a box and just bounces around in the box before it finally gets down to the turbo. So it's kind of useless in the sense that, yes, you're going to be getting air not as much as the car could use, or if you want to improve it, you can then improve it from there. So I went out and I purchased from Modern Performance the Air Charger K&N kit. Yes, I know it's K&N plus 50 horsepower guaranteed right there, but it's a air charger, so it basically sits, the filter, it's gonna sit right up here. Now, it's not labeled as a cold air intake, obviously not, because it sits up here. However, it does have a sealing, so when the hood closes, this will actually sit on top of the box and basically seal it off from the engine bay. And it still uses the factory snorkel, but we'll get back to that later. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna probably try to set up a tripod, get this thing installed, and then we'll go from there. So yes, I know it's not labeled as a cold air intake, and that's really what people want, is something that's a cold air intake. Well, with an Aura fender well or another fender well, there's always a chance that when you hit a puddle, especially here in Florida, you're gonna just completely hydrolock the engine because you just soaked your entire filter with water. So I wanted to steer clear of that, and I wanted to do something a little different. Yes, I know it's not cold air, and that's really the way to go, but this is just my take on it, and this is what I think will be better for the car. I haven't really had a whole lot of reviews really saying negative or positive things. They're like, yeah, it increased the airflow, it performs a little bit better, end of story. I also haven't heard anything saying if it's going to be loud, because it does sit, the filter sits right up against the firewall, so I don't know if it's going to be loud in the cabin at all, but we'll see when we get it installed. Alright, so it's all in place. As you can see, factory snorkel comes up into here and then goes inside the box. And then when the hood closes, it's actually not going to sit on that, which is kind of aggravating, but and then it comes back down and it's just a single pipe. It does use the old elbow that goes into the turbo. I wasn't too worried about that. It clamped on nice and easy. For some reason, I'm missing my bolt that holds my snorkel to the core support, and I think I might have lost it when I took it off to do my clutch, so that's fun. But I think I might heat tape this, especially this side and like maybe the box, because then if I can keep heat out, then that's fine. Now it does sit farther back away from where the most of the heat is the turbo, but I might heat wrap this, heat wrap the box, and then maybe heat wrap this, just because I could see problem, especially with it being black, that it's going to absorb a lot of heat. So yeah, it's in. We're going to go take a spin, make sure everything's running all good, and then we'll go from there. And this is why you should always clean out factory intakes. That was all sitting inside this. All this was all inside this one here. A lot of bugs. It almost makes me feel like the car was sitting under a tree for quite some time, because even in certain places there's bugs and leaves in places that shouldn't really be there if it was not under a tree. So it makes me feel like it sat under a tree for a little bit, but other than that, that old factory box doesn't do a whole lot. As you can see, it comes in through this box here. It somehow gets over, I think it comes through there, and then it gets over to here, but then it has to go through the filter, then back through here, then back out. It's a really dumb process, so definitely low RPMs, I can hear it. Although, the exhaust note the way it is, it's kind of a little difficult to tell. Up in the high RPMs, you're gonna hear it for a while. I don't know if the camera picks it up. It sounds great though. And I know people are gonna be like, oh, you're just saying that because you have something new on. I definitely feel a little bit of a difference. Alright, so most people are going to say, why did I not just do a fender well or a cold air intake, and I kept the factory snorkel? That's going to confuse some people, except for those who actually know what I'm doing. So let me just quickly show you what I want to do, just because I think it's really cool, it's really unique, but it also doesn't affect performance when there's weather, if that makes sense. Originally, my plan was to get this exact intake. I was going to modify this section, then cut an opening in my hood and do sort of like the NACA hood vent, or the one that kind of like dips in. It's like a little triangle, and then that is just going to funnel air right off the top and basically turn it into a short ram. Now, I was also going to keep this just as a secondary, because if it rains, then water can easily just flood in through that, especially because it's on the hood and it's rolling through the car. And I didn't want to soak this, so I was like, okay, so if it rains, or I know if it's going to rain, I'm going to keep a magnet in my car. Then I just put a magnet over top. It's something that Mouseball does with his car, and because he has a big scorpion cut out here to vent out some heat. So I was thinking about doing that, but then I was like, it's kind of dumb. And then I realized how this system is hooked up. And there's an interesting fact with the snorkel. The snorkel goes all the way through the core support. It's got a huge piece that comes all the way through. And it actually sits right there. If I were to cut this open, you could see it. Now, that's where this part comes into play. Some of you from the Z community might recognize this. This is a 350Z bumper cutout for the intake that's on a 350Z. As you can see, that's going to fit perfectly in that slot. Now, it's not going to sit perfectly straight up like that, and I'm going to have to angle it down, which is fine, but I'm just going to cut open the bumper, and I'm just going to funnel air into the snorkel, then that funnels it back into the air intake. So I'm basically creating I'm forcing more air in, so I'm force inducting my force induction. At least that's how I think it works. If I'm an engineer, then maybe that works, but I'm not. So that's how I think it technically would work. Now, I'm also going to be pulling a lot more cold air in, especially at higher speeds, because I'm going to be moving a lot more quickly. So that's my plan. Now, I see it a lot. So anyway, guys, that's probably going to wrap up today's video. It's probably going to be on the shorter side, but that's okay. We have one video that's going to be coming out soon. We were supposed to have a car cruise with most of the Southwest Florida Fiats in the area. We're going to have my guys from Miami all the way coming over here. We were going to meet up at DeCourse and do a cruise through the Sanibel Islands. That would have been fun. However, Saturday was really crappy and rainy, so we ended up not doing it. It's postponed until the end of the month. We do, however, have another video coming up that involves this car and Black Cherry and White Scorpion. So hopefully that'll be a cool video. You guys, I think, will like that because it's going to increase the handling and performance of all of these cars. And I think some of you might know what it is. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up today. Have a good one. Stay safe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like. Share with your friends. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.